Hey, welcome back. If you're a tennis fan, if you've so much as glanced at social media in the last 24 hours, then you already know something extraordinary is unfolding right now in Dubai. And if you somehow missed it, don't worry, because that's exactly why we're here. Sit down, because this story has everything. We're talking about a moment so genuine, so unexpectedly human, that it's completely taken over the tennis internet. A moment that involves two of the most exciting young players on the WTA tour right now. And at the center of it all? A simple, light-hearted apology that somehow said everything. Let's get into it. The 2026 Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships. A WTA 1000 event. One of the most prestigious stops on the calendar. And in the round of 16, Coco Gauff, Grand Slam champion, former world number 2, one of the most recognizable athletes on the planet, has just survived a war. Her opponent was Elise Mertens, a seasoned Belgian veteran who does not give anything away for free. The match lasted 2 hours and 18 minutes. Gauff committed 16 double faults. 16. She stared down 3 match points, was inches away from being knocked out entirely, and somehow, through sheer will and that deep, unshakable competitive instinct that defines great champions, she clawed her way back. Third set, dragged across the finish line. It was the kind of win that makes you exhale for the first time in 2 hours. So naturally, you'd expect the crowd to be on their feet for her. Roaring. Celebrating. Right? Here's where it gets interesting. Gauff walked up to the microphone for her on-court interview, still catching her breath, still running on adrenaline. She looked around the packed Aviation Club Tennis Center. And she realized something. The energy in that stadium, the buzzing, barely contained electricity in the air, it wasn't really for her. Not entirely, because a massive portion of that crowd had been sitting in their seats for hours, not to watch Coco Gauff, but to wait for what came next. They were there for a 20-year-old from the Philippines ranked 47th in the world. They were there for Alexandra Eala. And here's where Coco Gauff did something that nobody expected. Something that instantly went viral and frankly tells you everything you need to know about her character. She smiled. She actually laughed a little. And into the microphone, in front of thousands of people, she said, "I know you guys are probably here for Alex, so I'm sorry to make you wait." The place erupted. She kept going, "But if I'm not mistaken, I think some of you guys are cheering for me, so I appreciate it a lot. I hope you enjoy the next match. But thank you for cheering for me for now." That's it. That's the moment. 30 seconds of honesty and self-awareness from a multi-Grand Slam champion that has since been clipped, shared, and replayed tens of thousands of times. Because think about what she actually said. She's one of the most famous tennis players in the world, a player who headlines tournaments from New York to Paris. And she's publicly, cheerfully acknowledging that the room belongs to someone else tonight. Let that land for a second. This isn't a knock on Gauff. If anything, it's the opposite. It takes a rare kind of confidence to say that out loud and laugh about it. But it also tells you something enormous about Alexandra Eala. Because you don't get that kind of crowd loyalty by accident. You earn it. To understand just how significant this moment is, we need to take a step back and look at what Eala has actually built. Because the story here goes so much deeper than a tennis tournament. Alexandra Eala was born in Quezon City, Philippines. She was identified as a generational talent early, developed through the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, and has been quietly, methodically building her game while the rest of the world slowly started to pay attention. And then last year, the world stopped and stared. Miami Open, 2025. Eala enters as a wild card. Nobody outside of tennis circles really knows who she is yet. And then she starts playing. She beats Madison Keys, the reigning Australian Open champion. She outplays Elena Ostapenko. And then, in a match that genuinely sent shockwaves from Biscayne Bay all the way to Manila, she defeats Iga Swiatek, the world number 2, in straight sets, 6-2, 7-5. That win wasn't just an upset. It was a statement. It proved that Eala's left-handed game, those heavy, penetrating ground strokes, that incredible court coverage, that composure under pressure, it wasn't just capable of competing at the highest level. It was capable of winning there. That Miami run launched her into the top 100. She eventually climbed to a career high of 40th in the world, the highest any Filipino player, man or woman, has ever been ranked in the history of professional tennis. She became the first Filipino to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal. And late in 2025, she traveled to Southeast Asia for the SEA Games, carried her country's flag at the opening ceremony, and won the women's singles gold medal, something no Filipina had done in 26 years. When she draped that medal around her neck and handed it to her mother, herself a former SEA Games medalist, she wasn't just an athlete in that moment. She was a national hero. And that context is everything when you're trying to understand what's happening in Dubai right now. The Philippines is the 14th most populous country in the world, a nation that bleeds for basketball and boxing. And Alexandra Eala has single-handedly forced tennis into that national conversation. For the millions of Filipinos living abroad, in Melbourne, in New York, in the U.S., an Eala match isn't just a sporting event. It's a gathering. It's flags and drums and chants and pride. It's a reason to show up in numbers that make tournament directors scramble. We saw it at the Australian Open earlier this year, when Eala made her Grand Slam main draw debut. The queues to get into her court stretched around the grounds. Tennis journalists were posting photos, completely stunned. An estimated 50,000 Filipinos living in Melbourne turned out. The organizers were caught off guard. They simply hadn't planned for this. That's the gravitational pull she carries wherever she goes. And now here in Dubai, she's not just drawing crowds. She's winning matches against elite opposition. She's already taken down Jasmine Paolini, a top 10 player, with a masterclass of aggressive baseline tennis. Then she dismantled Shuai Zhang with the kind of composed, methodical precision that makes you think this isn't a rising star. This is a top-level competitor who simply hasn't been given the ranking to prove it yet. Which brings us to Thursday night's quarterfinal. And honestly, it feels almost too good to be true. On one side of the net, Coco Gauff, the established champion. The American prodigy who fulfilled every promise made about her when she walked onto center court at Wimbledon at 15 years old and defeated Venus Williams. 2 Grand Slam titles. A former world number 2. And right now, a player fighting to find her sharpest form, navigating some vulnerability in her serve, rebuilding her confidence match by match, but still possessing the defensive genius and competitive fire of a true elite. On the other side, Alexandra Eala, 20 years old, ranked 47th, riding the kind of momentum that feels almost cinematic. Armed with a left-handed forehand that creates angles right-handed players spend their whole careers learning to defend. Backed by a crowd that will treat every point like a match point. These two aren't strangers, either. They've practiced together regularly. They even partnered in doubles at the Italian Open last year, reaching the quarterfinals. They know each other's tendencies. They know exactly what they're walking into. Tactically, this is a genuinely fascinating puzzle. Eala wants to control the center of the court, keep rallies at her preferred tempo, and use that left-handed spin to push Gauff wide and create short balls to attack. Her drop shot has been lethal this week. Her serve has been precise. She hasn't dropped a set yet in Dubai. Gauff's response is to absorb. She is arguably the best athlete on the entire women's tour. Her court coverage is extraordinary. She retrieves balls that other players don't even attempt, extending rallies, forcing opponents to hit one more shot, until eventually the error comes. Her backhand is a genuine weapon. But if her serve continues to misfire the way it did against Mertens, 16 double faults is a lot of free points to hand over. Eala is clinical enough to take every single one of them. And then there's the crowd. Because in a sport that demands near silence during play, what happens in the moments between points matters. Every time Eala hits a winner, that stadium is going to sound like a Grand Slam final. Every error from Gauff will be greeted with noise that, frankly, isn't typical for a WTA 1000 quarterfinal. Gauff has acknowledged it directly. She knows the crowd will be pro-Eala. But she's also been clear, she's played in front of hostile crowds. She's played in empty stadiums during the pandemic. She thrives on intensity and she's not going to shy away from it. If anything, she might use it as fuel. For Eala, the challenge is the opposite. Managing the adrenaline. staying in her process when thousands of people are screaming her name, not letting the emotion of the moment rush her decisions or inflate her risk-taking. It's a beautiful thing to have that support, but it creates its own kind of pressure. And Eala has shown, repeatedly, that she understands that. She handles the attention with a grace that feels well beyond her 20 years. A win here would send her into her first WTA 1000 semifinal. It would push her even higher in the rankings. And it would, make no mistake, announce her arrival at the very top level of this sport in a way that even her win over Swiatek in Miami couldn't quite do, simply because of the scale and the visibility of this moment. But here's what I keep coming back to, beyond the tactics and the rankings and the implications. What Coco Gauff did after her match last night was remarkable. Not in a complicated way, in the simplest, most human way. She saw the crowd. She understood the room. She laughed and she shared the spotlight. She knows what it's like to be that young player carrying a nation's expectations. She lived that. She grew up in public, navigated immense pressure, had every stumble analyzed and every breakthrough celebrated on a global stage. By standing at that microphone and joking about making the crowd wait for Eala, she wasn't diminishing herself. She was acknowledging something real, that this 20-year-old from the Philippines is achieving something extraordinary and it deserves to be recognized. That's not a PR move. That's genuine respect between competitors. And it's the kind of moment that reminds you why sport, at its best, is about so much more than the score. What we're watching right now, Eala's rise, the Filipino fever taking over neutral venues on multiple continents, the way she's forcing an entirely new audience to fall in love with this sport, this is not a trend. This is a shift. A fundamental, permanent broadening of what tennis looks like and who it belongs to. The WTA Tour has never had a player quite like Alexandra Eala in this exact way. And the sport is richer for it. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Were you as struck by Gauff's moment with the crowd as I was? How do you see this quarterfinal playing out tactically? Does Eala's left-handed game give her the edge she needs? Or does Gauff's defensive brilliance ultimately prove too much to break down? And looking at the bigger picture, how high can Eala go this year? Top 20? Top 10? Are we watching a future Grand Slam champion? Tell me everything. This is exactly the kind of match the comments section was built for. If you got value from this breakdown, hit the like button. It genuinely makes a difference for the channel. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because this tour is moving fast and we are not slowing down. There is so much more story left to tell here. Thank you for watching. Enjoy what is shaping up to be one of the matches of the year. I'll see you in the next one.